Finally, Rishi Sunak's bold reversal of our ruinous march towards net zero has given this Conservative government a purpose. Sir Keir and Labour have immediately committed to stick to the ludicrous, unrealistic and poverty-inducing 2030 ban on diesel and petrol cars, creating a genuine wedge issue at the next election. The establishment, civil service blob, globalist, green lobby, eco-extremists and, of course, the mainstream media are up in arms. But for once, the Tories are not giving in to their hysteria. Listen to Sunak take on Nick Robinson on the British bashing corporation this morning.
No, hold on a second, Prime Minister. You stand up with the authority of Prime Minister in this building and you say you're scrapping a series of proposals. And when I ask you about them, you say, oh, somebody considered and it was in the appendix of this document. There's nothing to be scrapped, which is why your former Environment Minister says you're pretending to halt frightening proposals that simply do not exist.
No, I reject that entirely. These are all things that have been raised by very credible people about ways to meet our net zero obligations.
As you said yesterday in your speech, this isn't about politics. And yet, minutes after this, your party headquarters issued social media things saying Rishi Sunak has scrapped this, he scrapped that, there was a press release of the Labour Party. It's all about politics. You're making a series of claims that aren't true.
No, this is absolutely about doing what I believe to be in the long-term interests of the country.
That prompted Tory Deputy Chair Lee Anderson to rage the BBC, as I've always said, are the official opposition in our country. They did this during Brexit, they're always doing it, and it just proves once again how out of touch the BBC and large swaths of the mainstream media are with the great British public. And the Business Secretary, Kemi Badenoch, went even further during this extraordinary exchange on Sly News, where the Metropolitan lefty broadcaster proved once again it's not on the side of the British people.
People would argue the poorest in society aren't fretting about when they're going to replace their car with an electric car because the poorest in society don't drive in this country. The poorest in society are not worried about installing a heat pump.
I'm so sorry, but that is a ludicrous statement. If you step outside of London, come to my constituency, you will find the poorest in society drive because they live in a rural area. These rules, no. What you said is actually quite astonishing.
It is not astonishing. A third of the country doesn't drive. A third of the country doesn't own cars.
People who live in cities will be able to deal with this in a way that is quite different from people who live in towns and rural areas.
Of course, there's going to be much more of that sort of thing coming from the establishment media to try and stop the popular rising coming against unnecessary green measures, which will make hard-working Brits poor, even though we've done far more than any other major Western democracy to cut carbon emissions. The blob has been despicable throughout this process. First, they leaked to the Times last Saturday that Sunak was sticking to his net zero timetable, a brazen attempt to bounce the PM into rejecting a U-turn. Then they leaked the actual plans to the BBC to scupper Sunak's major unveiling at the Tory party conference. As a senior source told the Daily Mail today, this was an act of brazen disloyalty from a supposedly impartial civil servant trying to provoke division within Tory ranks. But there's much more to come. As the Sunday Telegraph editor Alistair Heath warns today, I hope Sunak realises just how vicious the backlash will be. The blob, the cultural aristocracy, and myriad pseudo-Tories will unleash every dirty trick in the book to force him to back down. Broadcasters will continue to be hysterically negative, as will the clerisy. He will be accused of hating the youth. The church, the left-wing think tanks, big business and charities will continue to condemn him. There will be leaks, resignations and attempts at ousting him. It will be nasty and frenzied. So Sunak must be ready for the biggest fight of his political career. And he's got to fight the wets in his own party too, who should lose the whip if they vote against these measures, just like Boris made them do during the Brexit battle.